just like that river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know someday beyond the sky. It's been a long.
Good evening. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host on CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. Those of you who are joining us for the first time, I would like to take a moment with your permission to explain to you what CWS is all about. The goal of CWS is to have conversations with people about their journeys. How are they using their gifts and talents to help others? How are they contributing to humanity in a positive way? I was just listening to the song by Seal's rendition of A Change Is Going to Come. And what hope, what promise that song makes, and especially in light of what's happening in Linden, Georgetown, Guyana today, where there is so much uncertainty and so much unrest, and people are suffering, people are in pain. There is protest because for a number of reasons, but one most importantly, 3 of our brothers have been killed. And when I say brothers, I mean all of us in the diaspora, race, color, creed. They are our brothers. Tonight is a special evening, a special night in the sense that I usually do not have 2 programs. Last night I had an American actress on, Lori Payne. And tonight I bring to you Miss Desiree Edghill from Guyana. Desiree was kind enough to lend her time to this program. And I thought, actually, it was the idea of a friend of mine who knows Desiree very well. And he mentioned to me what Desiree does. I happen to have met Desiree several years ago. And when he explained to me what she does, and I realized the selflessness, I realized the commitment, the sacrifice, I couldn't, and I could not see how I would allow her to return to Guyana and not come on the program. So tonight, Desiree is here. I was reading parts of her bio, and some of the things I see is how much she stepped forward to help others, and how she uses her gifts and she uses her talents to bring awareness to the epidemic AIDS in Guyana. With that kind of selflessness, that kind of self-sacrifice, I am always moved and inspired by it. And if I may triangulate back to the situation in Linden today, there are so many of us, so many people who are making sacrifices, huge sacrifices, lending their names and time to the cause because, because we all feel that the time has come, or whenever there is injustice and oppression or semblance of it, that it is each and every one of our inalienable obligation to stand up and protest against that in some way. Anyway, without much further ado, I'll take a break, and on the other side of the break, I'll introduce you to Desiree Edghill.
content. Oh, and just like the river, I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know.
Investment banking and lending industry since 1994. With years of experience as an investment advisor and financial advisor, Ray has provided hundreds of clients with investment advice and underwriting personal loans and mortgages. With several $100 million of mortgages funded since 1999, Ray's knowledge and experience allows him to advise clients on all types of mortgage transactions. Whether you're purchasing your first home or looking to purchase a rental or investment property, Ray can help you manage the process from first meeting to getting the keys. For mortgages made simple, contact Ray C. McMillan. Mortgages offered under license through Home Mortgage Consultants, Inc., Ontario License 10512. An accredited mortgage professional, Ray C. McMillan has been involved in the investment banking.
We are back. I'm Selwyn Collins, your host on CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. Tonight, as I mentioned to you, I have Desiree Edghill. Desiree, are you there, my sister?
Hi, Selwyn. Good evening.
Good evening. You sound loud and clear. I love that.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm on top of the world.
Oh, that is beautiful, splendid. You're energizing me here tonight.
Wow, that's my intention.
Wonderful. First, let me start by saying thank you for doing this.
You're most welcome.
Okay. Desiree, there are many who know you and many who don't. And then there are those who think they know you. Could you tell us a bit about who Desiree is?
Well, Desiree is a mother, a grandmother, a great-grandmother. She's an actress, a writer, a director, a producer. Have been in theater since 1979 when I started as an actress. And now I moved on a couple of years ago to directing, and then I started writing and then producing with the establishment of Artists in Direct Support, which is the organization I now run as the executive director.
Artists in Direct Support, AIDS.
Yes.
I love
AIDS.
that. And it says here that it's the first NGO to do HIV and AIDS work in Guyana.
In Guyana. We started in 1992.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, a couple of the people in the arts in Guyana were coming down with HIV. The first 2 or 3 people who we knew about that had HIV, because people probably had it before, we did not know, because we did not know about the disease. But when we did learn about the disease, the persons who were infected at that time, people in the arts. And we thought that because we were people in the arts, that people already were listening to us, that they would listen to us if we brought a message about HIV and AIDS. And that's when we formed, it was the brainchild of Keith Andres O'Brien, who's now deceased in the year 2000, himself HIV positive. And it was his idea that we come together and form Artists in Direct Support. And we wanted people to know right away that we were dealing with AIDS, hence the name Artists in Direct Support, because that says AIDS, which is AIDS. So right away, we tried to deal with the stigma and discrimination, because at that time, because people had not known a lot about HIV and AIDS, and they know that this thing was a killer, people were scared to deal with it. People were scared to be next to someone who had it. People were scared to be associated with someone who had it. And so we thought at that time that we could make a difference. I was a bit skeptical myself, because I was afraid of the discrimination, the stigma and discrimination that can come as a result of starting saying that you're doing HIV work. And we did face that stigma and discrimination. They used to call us the AIDS.
They call you the what?
group, and they had said that we all were HIV positive.
I just want
The
to,
AIDS group,
Desiree.
Artists in Direct Support, is the AIDS group. So all the people who were in that group had AIDS.
Okay, I just want to make a comment
Go ahead.
just now to our audience.
Uh-huh.
Let me inform you that Desiree is on Skype, and she's on I think an iPad.
Yes.
All right, wonderful. And so we're trying our best to bring you this broadcast the best way we can. Occasionally, you might get a few glitches here and there with the audio. Please be patient. If there's something that requires repeating, I would ask Desiree in the nicest of ways to repeat it for us. So I just want you to understand that. Yes, but let's go back to forming of this group called AIDS. You mentioned the fear of discrimination.
Yeah.
You said there were some.
Yes, there was a lot.
It was a lot.
It was some. It was a lot. As soon as people heard that we had a group called AIDS, they were like, "Oh my God, all these artists have AIDS. We're going to lose all our best people." And I was fearful because I said to Andre, God rest his soul at the time, that I didn't want to be involved in this. And he said, "You know, Desiree, we don't know because we didn't take an HIV test if we did have, because, you know, we had relationships." And he said, if you did have it, then they were going to know anyhow, so don't bother about it.
Wow.
And so we did form the organization, 5 of us.
So how did you deal with that? I mean, the stigma and you know, the comments, the negative comments and stuff. What kept you going?
I think I wanted, when we started the organization in 1992, Andres O'Brien was my bestest friend. He was my soulmate, and he was diagnosed. And I told him that I was going to be there for him until the end. And we didn't know when that was because we didn't have treatment at the time. And so he wanted this. He wanted to do this badly. He wanted people to know that this thing is there and that we had to do something. And it was our responsibility. And I promised him that I'll be there. And that was part of being there for him. To be in the organization, to try to deal with the stigma and discrimination, and to try to get over it. And my weapon was, when people would say that you got AIDS, I would say, well, I don't know, but do you? Have you checked? Do you know if you have it? Because every time you point one finger at someone, 4 of them are pointing back at you. And that was my defense. Every time people would say to me, well, I have AIDS. I did lose a couple of my friends, but it was not important because I said, if they were my friends, then it would be there throughout. So it didn't bother me a lot.
So true. I say that I believe that we can never lose friends. We lose acquaintances.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
whenever we are faced or in a difficult situation, or we have committed ourselves to a cause that might seem difficult or too challenging for others, they drop off the bandwagon. And I say, well, you weren't friends in the first place.
In the first place,
friends,
correct.
you know, to me that's an oxymoron. Losing friends, you lose acquaintances.
I believe that.
And that's good. Funding.
Okay.
Right.
So
You started in '92. How? I mean, did you get assistance from the government at the time? How do you guys maintain your operation?
Well, when we started in 1992, we did our first production in December 1, 1992. I remember that was the first time that we got all our actors sponsored because we wanted to have a free show. Because remember now, people did not want to deal with HIV and AIDS. And so we had to make it a free show so that people wouldn't have excuses for not coming. In a theater that held 2,000 people, we only had 50 people at that first show in 1992. And we didn't have money to pay the actors, and so we got the actors sponsored. So each actor was sponsored by a business. So say there's Edghill sponsored by GTT, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So we were sponsored by businesses. And we got the payment for the rental of the National Cultural Center free. We got that sponsored as well. And then we had a free show. We only had 50 people. The first production we did was called One of Our Sons is Missing. It was a Trinidadian play by Godfrey Seeley. We had asked him, we had been to Carifesta, and Andre came across the play, and we had asked for his permission to do it, and he gave us permission. And so our first production was One of Our Sons is Missing. And then there was a story about a young man who had double relationships, one relationship with a girl and another with a boy. Of course, with the one that he had with the male partner, it was secret and his family did not know. So when he came down with the virus, the father got, crazy and said, I see all the male friends you bring in. So it was sad. It was a time when he disclosed and the mother was crying, and the people in the audience, they were laughing because they couldn't deal with the sadness. And this whole thing of AIDS, they said, well, if he was doing that, then he had a right to get it. And so it was very, very challenging, that first production. Even though it was only 50 people, it resonated with us that this is something we have to continue to do because our people are ignorant. And so we continued. I want to say that every year since 1992, we would do it. We call it the flame and the ribbon. So the flame, after that first production, we called it the flame and the ribbon. The flame, we did a candle lighting ceremony where we would light candles for persons who would have passed as a result of an AIDS-related illness, or people who were living with the hope of us getting a cure and that they can live forever. And also for families who were taking care of their relatives who were, in fact, HIV positive. And so that was the flame, and the ribbon was the play that we would do, the production. And so every year we continued, and it got better. Every year, more people came as the years go by, and it got better. We got more comfortable in what we were doing. At that time, we didn't have any funding. And so if people wanted us to take the production like to region 6, say, or region 10, then we would have someone from that region sponsor it, sponsor our accommodation, our meals, and we could go do it for free. We ourselves were not so well educated about HIV and AIDS, but at that time we had the gum clinic attached to the Georgetown Hospital that were doing testing for HIV. And so every time we go out to do that theater, we would take someone from the gum clinic to answer questions. So we would do the presentation, and after the presentation, we asked people if they wanted to ask questions, because of course it was new, it was a new disease and people did not know. And so people would ask questions, and we'd have that person from the gum clinic answer the questions. That was when we started early on. As time went by, we got bigger and bigger, starting to fill the cultural center, and that was an achievement for us. We saw over the years that things got better and better. We didn't get our first funding until 1999, when USAID wanted to start a project in Guyana, an HIV and AIDS project, because at that time they had said that HIV was prevalent in our country. And they wanted to start this project called the Guyana HIV AIDS Prevention Youth Project. It was a youth project at that time because most of the people, when they did a survey, who were infected were between the ages of 15 and 49. And so they wanted to do this youth project, and they wanted to have like about 6 NGOs. It was the first time that NGOs were going to come together in a collaborative effort to work on one project. And they had gone to the government, and the government had said, we can't handle that, just go to the NGOs. And so they came to us, and they came to Artists in Direct Support and asked us if we would like to be a part of this project. And we said, well, sure. We were not registered at the time because, of course, we didn't have any money.
Right.
And we said, yeah, we wanted to be a part of that program. It was going to be the first in Guyana. And they came looking for us because they heard we were doing this work. And we said, sure. And it was in 1995. It was only 2 of was in 1999, sorry, that Andre and I got contracted to create the educational materials, the IEC materials for information, education, and communication materials for the project, the youth project that they were going to be doing. That was in 1999.
So where do you, to do all this work, I guess the administrative work, the designing of stuff, gathering of information and putting it together in a comprehensive way or an intelligent way. Where do you get that kind of assistance from? Do you hire young people? How do you go about doing that?
Well, at first when we started, we had, because it was, they said that the young people were the ones who were mostly at risk, we did a movie called A Force to Reckon, and it was done in schools because at that time we were trying to deal with stigma and discrimination. And that first production, we got funding from WHO PAHO to do that first movie. We opened office in the year 2000. I never forget the date because it was that fatal day, the 11th of September in 2000, when we opened office. I remember the head of USAID at the time, Carol Becker, was at the opening of our office, and I saw all these security people come in, and she came to me and she said, Desiree, I have to leave. They just bombed the Twin Towers. And so you can never forget the date, the 11th of September, because it was that fatal day. A year before that, Andre had died, God rest his soul, on the 11th of September, and that's in the year 2000. And so 1 year after that, I wanted to open the office, and I did that in September 11th, 2001. And that was the first time that we got funding. when I say funding, I don't mean funding to be consultants, but funding to open an office, funding to pay for our utilities, funding to pay for the staff, and funding to pay for the work that we were going to do. That was the first time we got funding as an NGO. I remember it was so emotional for me because I remember that Andre had started this organization in 1992. And we had done so much work, sometimes from our own pockets. When we do a production, we put some aside. And we had done so much work without funding. And now the first time we were going to open an organization and get funding, and he was not there. You know, I remember when he was dying, I said, you can't go now. This is not the time because we're going to now finally get funding so we can do so much more work. But I guess his time had come, and he said, Desiree, if you continue to do this, I'm going to be happy. But one thing he made me promise him is that I will work with the men who have sex with men, because he was himself an MSM. And he said, our MSMs are at high risk because of the type of sex they have. And they asked, please, Desiree, promise me that you're going to work with them. And I did promise him that I would. And so that first year, we trained our first set of peer educators. It was 12 of them, young people, to go out and do the work that we had planned to do. Of course, you know, because we were called in, we did not know about doing proposals. And they said we couldn't get funding unless we were registered. And I remember doing my production, and I got $80,000, and I took all of it. Said I'm going to register the organization because Andre had just died, and I was so excited to fulfill my promise to him. And so I got it registered, and the very next year we started getting the funding directly, because that first year, because we were not registered, I had to get my funding through the Ghana Responsible Parenthood Association, who was like a senior NGO in Ghana, and apparently still is. And I would get my money would go to them, and then they would disperse it to me, to my organization. And I didn't want that. I wanted to handle my own money because I wanted to do my own work. And so in the next year, I got registered. I registered with some money that I had gotten from doing a play, and then we opened our office in this 2000.
What I'm hearing here, Desiree, and I'm very impressed, and I'm also learning, is the importance and power of commitment.
Yes.
The importance and power of sacrifice. Mm-hmm. You know, in so many religious books, they talk of sacrifice. Yeah. But I always believe that sacrifice is one of the greatest things that we can do. It opens up the universe, and the universe pours into your cup when you sacrifice. I hear of Andre, you know, on his deathbed, telling you that, urging you to go on, and what a sacrifice, and you know, I want to draw a parallel between that, you know, and leadership. You know, I often say that great leaders make huge sacrifices and don't really care if they're around to see the effects of their sacrifice. Obviously, today, you and many of us are beneficiaries of that sacrifice. I mean, you all sacrificed then, but you know what Andre happened to pass away. I see, I hear, you know, sticking to it, you know, working with what you have. When you started, you had no funding. Yeah. The first show only brought 50 people in a 2,000 capacity. 1992, right? You only had 50 people. You had to go into your pockets, yet you kept going. And what I'm hearing here is commitment, believing in your idea. I'm hearing passion, and I'm hearing dedication. And so, you know, here you are teaching us, just by telling your story, the importance of making huge sacrifices, the importance of stepping beyond the me. You know, I use me as an acronym to mean my everything. That's selfishness. Stepping beyond selfishness and becoming selfless in your endeavor to realize your goal. Yeah. And I want to commend you on that. I also like to take a short break. And then when we come back, I want to explore your timeline again, and so you can tell us some more about your work in theater, and you know how this really helped you to be such an ambassador, such a humanitarian. All right?
Okay.
All right, good.
Abdou Jambar, nyari And I go downtown. Somebody keep telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please. But he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Oh, there've been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
And lending industry since 1994. With years of experience as an investment advisor and financial advisor, Ray has provided hundreds of clients with investment advice and underwriting personal loans and mortgages. With several $100 million of mortgages funded since 1999, Ray's knowledge and experience allows him to advise clients on all types of mortgage transactions. Whether you're purchasing your first home or looking to purchase a rental or investment property, Ray can help you manage the process from first meeting to getting the keys. For mortgages made simple, contact Ray C. McMillan. Mortgages offered under license through Home Mortgage Consultants, Inc., Ontario License 10512. An accredited mortgage professional, Ray C. McMillan has been involved in the investment, banking, and
We are back. I'm Selwyn Collins on CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. My guest tonight is Desiree Edghill. Desiree, my sister, how are you tonight? You're still okay?
I'm good, yes. I'm
Good. I'm glad to hear
excited,
that.
if anything.
Wonderful. As I mentioned to you earlier, we have a third party that joins in the conversation, the chat room. And so I would like to visit the chat room and read some of the comments that are coming in. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, no problem.
Wonderful. QTP says, good night, Desiree and Selwyn. Listening to Desiree brings back memory of my days back home as an AIDS HIV worker. I would not preempt where you are right now in your AIDS work, but would wait until your timeline is highlighted. And Callie says, Desiree, I admire your persistence and self-sacrifice. Your use of theater to educate and inform about AIDS is creative and admirable. Do you know if this model is being used elsewhere in the world? And Patrick says, good interview. Thanks, Patrick. So let's go back to Callie's question.
Yeah.
Right? Your use of theater to educate and inform about AIDS is creative and admirable. Do you know if this model is being used elsewhere in the world?
Yes, I do know, and it is being used. I remember when we did that first project that I told you about, the Ghana HIV AIDS STI Youth Project, we had to create a theme, and the theme for that project was Ready Body, Is It Really Ready? So Ready Body, exclamation, and Is It Really Ready, question mark. Because remember, we were targeting youths at the time, and they didn't want to talk about HIV. And because the thing in Guyana at the time was, I got a ready body, my body ready, like looking ready. And so we'd say, Ready Body, Is It Really Ready? And we had this big concert. It was in Main Street. We had like a block off the concert by where Courts is now. And oh, droves of young people came because they were thinking that there's some exercise something or some sexy thing, ready body. I got a ready body, and the girls come looking ready, kind of thing. And when they came, we had entertainment for them. Of course, it was all about HIV, but we didn't talk much about HIV. We talk about what is a healthy body. A healthy body has to do with whether you check your ear. When did the last did you check your ear to see if you're hearing good? When last did you check your eyes to see if you're seeing well? When last did you have a total check to make sure your body was really ready? So it looks ready, but internally, was it really healthy? Because a ready body was a healthy body, and that included getting tested for HIV. And so that was it was huge in Guyana. I mean, these young people, we had the girls dress up in their short skirts and dance ready body, because Andre had written the song for that launch. And I had to come to Arlington, Virginia, to Family Health International. Now, Family Health International was doing technical support for the USAID project that we were being funded under. And so when they came and they heard about the Ready Body project, they thought it was so wonderful. And they asked me to come to Arlington, Virginia, to the office and do what is called a brown bag presentation about the project that we were doing, because we were the oldest NGO doing HIV work in Ghana. So I was like kind of senior, not to show off or anything, but I feel good about it. And so I went to Family Health and I did the brown bag presentation to technical people who were doing technical support for different NGOs all over the world. And they made me teach them the song. We had a Ready Body song. And one lady, I remember, Lara V, she said, I was going to, I think it was Papua New Guinea, and I was going to take this project there because this is a success story. And I've heard many stories about the arts, about how powerful the arts is in education. And what we do at our level is not to always create stuff and give it to the youth. What we would do is have them create their stories. So if you know a story about your neighbor and HIV, about your friend and HIV, about something you heard with HIV, about your family, we have you come and tell the story, and then write the story, and then enact it. And that way, it remains with you because you created it, and you also share it because you would share a joke faster than you would share something serious. And so when people would laugh at the stories we were telling at the cultural center, and people get upset and say, but Desiree, how can they be laughing at a time when they should be crying? And I said, don't worry about it. When someone gets a joke, they share it faster than something serious. And so they're going to be carrying this message with them and sharing it with their friends when they leave the cultural center. So don't worry about it.
That was very creative,
and
Desiree.
It's true. Something that's funny remains with you long after something serious is forgotten. And we call them the spit press. Because they tell other people about what they saw at the National Cultural Center. And so every year we got more and more and more people. One year we couldn't start the show because we were filled and there were so many people outside. And they said, if you do not promise that you're going to have the show the next day, which was a Monday, we're not leaving here. We're going to break this cultural center door down. And I went to the manager, Daphne Rogers, at the time, and I asked, can we do a holdover tomorrow? You see what's happening? And she said, yes. And so I went outside and announced, yes, tomorrow night, do come. We're going to have a holdover. And so they left and we continued with the show. That was a great achievement, from 50 to 2,000 for one night, and so many outside waiting the next night. And the next night we did have a sold out as well. And so it is popular. We have done street theater too, go into the streets, do a little performance, and then you have question and answer at the end. Always trying to get the crowd involved, try to understand if they picked up anything from what you did, if they learned anything, and what message were they going to take away, to ensure that they're taking away the right message. Because sometimes with literacy, some people might get the wrong message, and we wanted to make sure that when they left that they did. So yes, it's happening all over the world. It's happening in the Caribbean now. As I speak, all over the world. Ashe from out of Jamaica, that's what they do, education through the arts. We did an exchange program with Ashe through the project we were doing, where Ashe came to Ghana. I produced them in Ghana and they performed, and then we went over there to Jamaica because they were doing more dance and singing and we were doing more acting. And so yes, it's happening all over the world.
That's so commendable and so amazing. If I may take a moment to interject a point. Some time ago I said that leaders are not necessarily who is selected and adopted or elected, but whom circumstances and events entrust leadership on based on how that person or those persons respond to those circumstances and events. And you know, I was a little bit concerned at some times about my theory on that. But tonight I'm listening to you. I'm listening to how you have risen to the occasion, and you did it with such passion, such commitment, and such dedication and love, Desiree, and such creativity that I feel comforted knowing that I was right.
You
That
are.
yes, under these circumstances, with AIDS rampant as an epidemic in our country, such a small population,
Yeah.
you know, in spite of the anticipated ridicule and rejection, you stood up and you persevered. And here we are today. All of us are beneficiaries of that sacrifice. And
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome. I feel good about it. It's always been a good feeling. Not the money, not the funding, but when you reach people, and we used to do a television program called YTV, Youth, Talent and Voices, where we would have two young people hosting the program, and we have a studio audience, and we have a call-in. We want people to hear from people what they learn or what would they like to hear about on the program. And it was great. It was one of the, we got comments like it was one of the best educational program on television in Guyana.
Wow.
Youth Talent and Voices. That was funded by USAID under the project. Because, you know, every year you have to propose what you would like to do. And that was one of the things we wanted to do, because really we're artists. And so they funded us for like 5 years. We did that program. I wrote about 200 and something skits for it.
208.
Those skits are being used now. If anyone has an event, a concert or otherwise, they would ask us for an HIV message, and I would pull out one of those scripts, because I said, you know, they never die. They're messages.
Wow.
And we dealt with different types of messages. Out of the project, we had manuals created by Benita Harris, very good with creating manuals for the young people, manuals for care and support, manuals for the workplace, manuals for the faith-based organization, because, you know, we had to bring in the faith-based because we needed their support in the fight against HIV and AIDS. And so it's been wonderful, and because my passion really is the arts, I love being an actress. I'm getting older now, so I'm doing more writing and directing, but acting, it's my baby. I love it. And because they say if you enjoy what you do your work better. That's what it's been for me. I enjoy the arts, I love arts, and I'm using that same thing to make a difference. Now this year we're celebrating 20 years
Congratulations.
as an NGO.
20 years.
Huge.
20 years.
It is 20 years, because this is 2012. We started in 1992. So this year we're going to be celebrating. We're going to have a big shebang come December. We started our year of celebration in April with a reunion, and we wanted to go a church service at the church that Keith Andrews O'Brien used to worship at, and we did our church service there. Then we had a reunion. We had our all-white boat ride, and we got raffles, and we got stuff happening all through the year. And so this year is special for me for a number of reasons. We're 20 years old this year. This year, CARICOM has recognized me as a champion for change.
Congratulations.
It's an award that they would give up. Say again.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And last year, I was selected to represent Guyana at the CCELD in Canada, the Caribbean Canada Emerging Leaders Dialogue. They looked at people who emerged as leaders, didn't just get there, but you came from a place where you thought you couldn't make it, and then you worked your way up and made it up there. And they wanted you to share that with other people as, from across the Caribbean, because there were people from Canada and the Caribbean. That's why it's called Caribbean Canada Emerging Leaders Dialogue. And I was in Canada, and then I went to Jamaica, and then to Barbados, and then back to Guyana. It was a wonderful experience of sharing and learning, because we all lead differently, and I was one person to lead from the front. I'm a Leo myself, and I say I'm a Leo, the lioness, queen of the beasts, and I always feel that we're the rulers, and so I feel the best way to lead is to take the lead and go with it. This is the best way, let's go. One of the things I brought back from the CCELD is leading from the back.
Uh-huh.
Listening to your team, listening to their vision, working with it and then taking it and go running with it. And that has been wonderful for me. And although I felt that I was this powerful leader for all these years, come this year, I started stepping back a little bit because one of the things I realized, I'm getting old now and I'm going to have to get some young person to take the mantle and go with it for me. And so I started to do a little leading from the back instead of taking it and going.
You know,
And now,
Desiree, I'm sitting here listening to you and I'm awestruck. And I'm venturing to say speechless, but I know my audience might not believe me.
no, I don't want you to be speechless.
But here's a second thing that you have underscored for me. I refer to the women of Guyana, the women of the Caribbean of whole, but the women of the Guyana as the gems of our soils. And I'm listening to you, and you are underscoring that concept. You are a gem of our soil. Such leadership, you know, such courage, such wisdom, actually. We are talking about HIV/AIDS, and we are talking about the arts and theater.
Yeah.
But I am having this conversation with a woman, and I will venture to call you phenomenal.
Oh, thank you.
Phenomenal in so many different ways. And I feel compelled to say to you or ask you, I know you're a mother with children, lots of children, with different children and so on, and you seem to have a knack for connecting with youths, recognizing the importance of our youths,
Yeah.
recognizing the importance of encouraging them to be involved,
Yeah.
recognizing the importance of respecting their intellect, respecting them enough to let them lead.
Yes.
You know, and this kind of support the concept you came back with from CCED about leading from the back.
Yeah.
Now, the question that's formulating in my head is about your relationship. I mean, how you see women, the role of women in Guyana. And I'm not saying Guyana ignoring the Caribbean. I'm saying Guyana because you're Guyanese, you've done a lot in Guyana, and I just want to focus it there. Also, as part of this question, or the reasoning behind this question, is that I hear about so much violence against our women in Guyana. All kinds of abuse, psychological, physical, all kinds of abuse, which I believe must stop. It has to stop if our country is to grow. What are some of your feelings on that?
You know, the woman in our culture, I must say, has always been the caregiver. And so in olden times, in my mother's time, the man would go out and work and provide the bread, and the woman would take care of the family, everything, cook. Now, because of the economy, the man's salary is not enough to care for the home, to take care of the home. So there are more women out there working than before. And so you both have to work and pool your salaries in order to take care of your family. And so that has put a little strain on caring for children. Hence, we have children, you know, parents are not home. When they come home, children are sleeping. When they're leaving, children haven't gotten up as yet, and we have that. Because of that inability by the male to provide for their home, I don't want to say that they have lost the control. I don't want to say that. But I want to say that the women, some of them, not all of them, want to be equals rather than for the man to be the head. And that has caused an issue for the manhood, because you know that male chauvinist ego says, I am the man and what I say goes. But if we're both working for the money and bringing it in to provide for a family, then we have to be partners in the relationship and not necessarily you be the head. And so it has caused a little bit of, I don't think we were prepared for it as women. And it has caused, a lot of that has caused a little bit, because, you know, they say for women, our weapon is our mouth. And, you know, we can do a good talking up. Men are physically stronger, but we can do a good talking up. And you know, when you hurt the man's ego, we can get a lot of problems. I'm not saying this to say that men are right to hit women, but I don't think the solution to this problem is locking our men up. I think we got to work with both men and women to try to get them to understand how the brain works, because the male brain and the female brain are totally different. Uh, Men are not built to deal with emotions, and they lash out if they come to that time, if they're going to have to cry, or if you're going to see them in a place where their emotions are going to come to play, they're going to hit out. You see a man at a funeral, then he'd be hitting the wall instead of crying for his mom, and that has been it. I also, so we've always had, I wanted to say, we've always had men hitting women, but we've not had a lot of talking out about it. More women are talking out about their abuse. This did not happen in the past, and that's why it's looking like it is so much more than it was. But really, more women are talking out, and now we have laws to protect women in Guyana, women and children. And so, the police are bound to come once a woman calls and says, my partner is abusing me. He has to go there, as they too can get into trouble. And so because of that, more women are brave enough to speak out about abuse. And so that is why we hear so much about it. But I think women also got to move to a place where we can work with our men, even though we don't see them as the man bringing in the money and I got to go there and work hard. We gotta work on that partnership, and I think that is what is lacking. We're not communicating with our men, and if we don't communicate with them, we're always going to have problems. So I think communication is of utmost importance, and not communication in terms of lashing out with your tongue and saying bad things. Like one woman came to me and said her husband had abused her, and when I found out what the story was, he had lost his job, and she came in one day and said to him, if you don't stop sitting in that chair and looking at that TV, one of these days, when you come in here, you'll find someone else sitting in that chair. And so he said, this chair that I bought, you were going to bring someone and put them to sit in this chair that I brought? He said, well, bring them on. Bring them on. And from that one sentence that she used, he never stopped talking about it. It troubled his ego. And so he always say, you're bringing yet? When is he coming? He coming. I got my machete, or I got my cutlass, waiting. And it got annoying to her. And she said, but I just said something. He said, but you said that you got to mean it. And then it ended up with him hitting her because it kept coming up. And so I'm saying that to say that we have to be able to talk with our partners and work together as a partnership and not abuse each other, because verbally we abuse too. A lot of men wouldn't go to the police and say, well, my wife has abused me, because of the whole ego thing. So I think though, the more and more women are coming to understand this, and we have to do more work too. One of the things that we're doing now in our organization is looking at the drivers of the epidemic, because originally when we started doing HIV in Guyana, we were the second highest in the Caribbean, and now we're the seventh highest. So we're no longer a priority country, in that we don't get as much funding. Every year the funding that we get is reducing. It's reducing for our organization. We have to look for funding elsewhere. But because we're not now a priority country, we're not getting the funding like before. So now we have to look at what is called the drivers of the epidemic. And so we know all about HIV, how you can get it, how you can protect yourself, what you need to do. And now we need to look at the things that can cause someone to contract HIV. And domestic violence is one of the drivers of the epidemic. Because when a man abuses his woman, and I'm not saying this to say that only women are abused, because men are too sometimes. When a man abuses his woman, the last thing she wants is to get into a bed and make love with him. And men seem to think that, the best way to get you to love me again is to take you to bed and make love to you. But when you're hurt physically, emotionally, mentally, you don't want to go to bed. And that's the time when the man says, well, if you don't want it, I'm going to take it. And at that time when a woman does not want to have sexual intercourse, then she's not lubricated, she's not ready. And therefore bruising can occur, and if he has anything, she's going to contract it. And so I wanted to explain that because I wanted you to understand, when I say drivers of the epidemic, what I was talking about. And so we're looking at all those other things, because the focus is not now for Guyana on HIV and AIDS, because we're not a priority country. So we're looking at domestic violence, we're looking at incest. Those are some of the things that are causing, that they call the drivers of the epidemic. These things can make people contract HIV. So in this process, the role of the woman becomes very important. A woman has to stop. A man can only do you as much as you want him to do. And I don't care, people have gone against me for that, but I'm saying A man can only do to a woman as much as she wants him to do to her. When you start a relationship, it's a beautiful thing. But when you see it's going to a different place, then you have to talk about it. You have to nip it in the bud. But if you take it as just a little slap, it's a little, it's nothing, oh, it's all right, and you condone it, then it gets to that place where women are being killed. So I think women are now moving to that place where they're standing up and saying, hello, hello. And because so many women are dying, more women are talking. And so we have a role. We have a role in that we have to start talking to our boys, our children.
Mm-hmm.
This is not about the man who's abusing us. This is about us not allowing ourselves to be abused so that our children wouldn't see us getting abused and think that it's okay. We also have to talk to our boy children about how do you treat a woman. Our culture says, I lose my ball, you tie your heifer. So we don't embrace our boys and teach them about how you treat a woman. Send them on the street to become a man, and then we shelter our girl children. But while we're losing our bull and tying our heifers, somebody else goes to collect our heifers. And so as mothers, women have to start talking to their boy children about relationships, which is something that is not in our culture. And because we have so many absent fathers, some of them absent even when they're present because they're never home, we have to take up that role because we do mothering to tell because we know how we want to be treated. And so we can tell our sons how you should treat a woman, how respectful you should be. And so that's where it has to start. It has to start in the schools. And we are doing education in school through the HFLE, the Health and Family Health and Family Life Education in Schools. It's a new program that the Ministry of Health has just taken ownership of, training teachers to do facilitation, to talk about different things like abuse, if children can recognize abuse, about if they're being molested, incest, and that kind of thing. So we have to start there. This is not us. It has to do with us and our partners, yes, because we can't show our children that it's okay for a partner to abuse us. And then at the same time, we have to sit with our boys. Our boys are in the lockup. Our boys are smoking drugs. Our boys are pushing drugs. Our boys have guns. That's what's happening to our boys. Our boys are not in school. Our boys are not in university. So where are our boys?
And some of our boys are being killed.
And some of our boys are being killed. That too.
You know, when I was told that I must have Desiree on, and I said, great, you know, this is wonderful. I had not anticipated that an hour and a half would not have been enough, because you know you have some very interesting. Well, I encourage the tangents, but they're not tangents that are not they're tangents that are relative to what we are talking about. And I'm sitting here thinking, an hour and a half, Desiree. If you don't mind me saying this now before the end of the show, I would like to have you back and to talk some more about, you know, this whole relationship and mothering and mentoring our young boys, because they are our future. And it is very important that we spend a lot of time communicating the importance of respect and love. But I want to take this moment to go back to the chat room. I start with Kali, who says, ready body. Is it really? Quite compelling. I love it. And then Kali says, Desiree, I believe you have a globally compelling theme and mantra in ready body, especially as you found to be compelling to youth. And then Lily says, how have churches in Guyana responded to Guyanese with HIV and the work your organization is doing? Hold that thought. Okay. Desiree, Kali says, Desiree, you have the unique gift of connecting with youth. Do you have some tips to share with us on how to reach youth? Hold that thought again. Kali goes on, how do you empower women to encourage their husbands and partners to use condoms if they suspect they have other partners? And then QTP says, having refreshed my memory of where we started with the genesis of HIV/AIDS way back in 1985 and subsequent birth of the AIDS Secretariat, I would like to know where we are now with the continuing, it stops there, with the continuing education of HIV, even though it is evident globally that the emphasis is not there like before. I want to. Did you get all of that, or would you like me to repeat it?
I think I got it. I
You,
got the one about the churches and their involvement.
all right.
I got
Well,
about any tips about how you engage youth
yes.
um, in the work. I got okay. The
Well,
rest
I would go over them, but let's. I'm asking you. Let's take a break,
okay.
and when we come back, we will address these questions.
Very good.
All
Very
right.
good.
This is a man's world. This is a man's world. But it wouldn't mean nothing, nothing without a woman or a girl. You see, man made the cars to take us over the road. Man made the trains to carry the heavy load. Man made the electric light to take us out of the dark. Man made the boat for the water like no one made the earth. This is a man
in the morning sun. I'll be sitting in the
man's world. A man's world. But it wouldn't mean nothing.
Lending industry since 1994. With years of experience as an investment advisor and financial advisor, Ray has provided hundreds of clients with investment advice and underwriting personal loans and mortgages. With several $100 million of mortgages funded since 1999, Ray's knowledge and experience allows him to advise clients on all types of mortgage transactions. Whether you're purchasing your first home or looking to purchase a rental or investment property, Ray can help you manage the process from first meeting to getting the keys. For mortgages made simple, contact Ray C. McMillan. Mortgages offered under license through Home Mortgage Consultants, Inc., Ontario License 10512. An accredited mortgage professional, Ray C. McMillan has been involved in the investment, banking, and lending industry since 1990.
But it wouldn't mean
long
nothing.
time coming, but I know
Not a
change
woman of a
won't
girl.
come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gon' come. Oh, yes it will.
We are back. I'm Selwyn Collins on CWS, Conversations with Selwyn. My guest this evening is Desiree Edghill. Desiree, How are you holding up?
Yeah, it's good.
We're enjoying this conversation, Desiree.
Thank you.
So back to the chat room. Wow, it is lighting up. The first one, I guess, Desiree, I believe you have.
The religious community and how
Yes,
they're
exactly.
involved.
How have churches in Guyana responded to
Sure.
Guyanese with HIV and the work your organization is doing?
Okay. Originally, when we started, the churches were discriminating. The people who they found if some of their parishioners or their members were HIV positive, they would not have them in church. I remember one time in the early years, one young man was refused to eat church for his funeral at a church he attended since he was a child. I don't want to talk about the information.
Desiree, we're having a little problem with your audio. Could you repeat that part? One young man, something?
He was refused, the church refused to hold his funeral service
Wow.
because they found out he was HIV positive. That was a couple of years. It's not now. Now the church is more involved. Some they're in the projects we're doing. There are 7 NGOs remaining now. We used to have 20. Now we have 7, and among them is faith-based organization operating out of a church, Love and Faith in Vine. There was also a project that I did in churches because I, in fact, didn't work in my church. I'm Anglican myself. I'm a member of St. James the Less then. Now I go to Transfiguration. But when I was at St. James, I went to my priest and I told him I needed to do work with the youths in the church about HIV. And he asked me, he said, do you think that we need it? And I said, Father, you are christening the babies of unmarried women. So women are having sex out of wedlock. And so they are at risk. And he said, okay, Desiree, do your thing. And coming out of that work, I trained them as peer educators so that they can, while they're doing the youth group, they can talk about HIV. We did an ad in that same church with my priest, Father Evan Semple, who agreed to do this, an HIV ad, where we set up like if it was a wedding was happening and the bride and the groom were at the altar and the priest says, does anyone know any reason why these 2 people should not be joined together? Speak now or forever hold your peace. And someone out of the audience raised their hand and said, I know the impediment. None of them take the HIV test. None of them.
Wow.
And then the bride turns to the groom and said, honey, we made all these preparations for this wedding, but really we didn't check to see if we were ready for each other. And the church allowed me to do that. It was filmed in St. James the Less Church. That was a big move. And then it was important that couples get tested before they get married. Because after you get married, both gonna fall. And so we got together members, leaders in the church, lay preachers, leaders in the church to train them as HIV counselors. Now they were already marriage counselors. And so what I really wanted them to do, the project that I did, was to include HIV counseling into their marriage counseling. So while couples went to them for that marriage counseling, they're going to talk about HIV. Get tested and make sure that you're ready, your bodies are ready for each other, that you don't have any infections.
Wonderful. And yeah, go ahead, sorry.
And that was well received. It was a part of that training in counseling was that we brought in people who were HIV positive for them to counsel with their stories. And it was profound. We found people who were pastors, people who were leaders in the church who were challenged with an HIV situation and found themselves in a place where they didn't know what to do. People were crying, they were crying. It was profound. And that was like a breakthrough. And now you have people coming and doing couple testing. Even before they go for marriage counseling, they're doing couple testing to ensure that they're both ready for each other. And so the church is involved. The church is doing work on HIV. There's the hell and damnation bringing down like before. If you get AIDS, you're going to hell, attacking the youth, and so the youths were leaving the church. Now, because the church really, the role of the church is to embrace.
Reminds me of that famous statement by the son of the carpenter Jesus, that who is without sin cast the first stone.
Who is without sin?
Cast the first stone.
Who is without sin take the first stone called a lion.
Yes. I want to I want to I want to move to some of the other questions in the interest of time,
Okay.
Desiree. Kali says you have the unique gift of connecting with youth.
Yeah.
Do you have some tips to share with us on how to reach youth?
Oh, sure. Youth has been my baby. I have quite a few children myself. And I said if I had the chance to be a mother again, I'd be the best mother ever. I was not the best mother, and I know that. But I'm friends with my children now. I can go there. Some people say you can't be friends with your children. Oh, yes, you can. But what the problem with us and the youth is that we think we always know what the youth wants, and it's not so. We have to give you the opportunity to tell us what it is that they want. And we might not agree, but we can provide guidance. I think we always say, shut your mouth and listen to me. I's your mother, I's your father. I know, I've been there. I know more than you, don't it? But I have never dealt with my youth like that. Do you have a vision? If you don't have a vision, you don't have a future. Do you have a vision? Yes, they call me Auntie Des. Yes, Auntie Des, do we have a vision? Let me see. And they come, you give them an opportunity to do and to make mistakes. Because they'll never learn if you keep telling them what to do. I would tell the boys in my group, do you tell your mother that you love her? And they say, we can't tell me mother we love she. Mommy, I love you. It's a girl thing. I say, you don't have to say it like that. You could say, oh, girl, you know your son love your dad, right? You know you love a big woman, right? and tell her out. Because your mother wants to hear that from you. She wants to know that there's a feeling that we can connect, but we don't talk with our boy children. One mother called me and said, what the hell are you doing to my child? I said, what am I doing? She said, this hugging up thing and this. And he came to me and he said, when I hugged my mom, she said, get off of me, boy. What do you do? Get off of me. Because we're not accustomed to it. So you have to give them an opportunity to tell you what it is that they want. This thing, long time thing about, remember when we were young, you said what you want, but when you grow up, you have to go back there. We don't do that anymore. We give children 16, 14 subjects. So why you do this? And good, if you don't do good, no. What do you want to be when you grow up? You have a vision. Let us work toward it. Might not be what you want for them. You want a lawyer and doctor. Everybody can be a lawyer and a doctor. So my thing for dealing with youth is listening to them. Do more listening than we do talking, because they're not us. And these are different times.
Yeah.
Our youth now have all these distractions. MP3 players, computer, iPad, BBM on the phone, BlackBerry. We never had that, not even television. We just had radio. So they have messages coming from so many different places. It's not us alone, so we don't have to listen. And we also have to use the same medium that they listen to get through to them.
To get through
if
to
it's
them.
the TV, if it's iPad. I know I'm on the Facebook. They call me the Marshal. Say the Marshal on the prowl, because I go on their Facebook. They want to add me as their friend, and I add them. And I go on their Facebook and I see them using bad language, and I said, when you get to go to the work environment, people are going to go look there for you. When they go there, they must like what they see. So whatever you present on Facebook, you must.
Thanks for saying that tonight. That's a very good point. Taking responsibility in such a way. But before I move on to the next question, I want to highlight a point you made in passing just now. It kind of slipped my mind. The importance of mistakes. You said you allow them to make mistakes, and I can't agree with you more. How important having the room to make mistakes is,
because we did too. We did too.
Yeah.
And we're better for it. You make your mistakes and you learn.
Yeah.
And you can't. And even when they make the mistakes, you can't say, "I told you so," because it's like telling them they were wrong in the first place. Would you say to them, "Now you have made a mistake. Have you learned anything from that mistake that you just made?"
I want to attempt something here for the first time tonight, only because the dynamic here in the chat room is unlike any other night. There are so many things coming through. So what I want to do is to touch on these questions and comments, but ask you if we can condense some of the responses so we can get to more of them, because they seem quite interesting. So I'm going to go rapid fire. Kali says, how do you empower women to encourage their husbands and partners to use condoms if they suspect they have other partners?
You can't attack. If you attack and say you're out there every night with all these set of women, you better put on a condom, it's not going to work. You got to go to the place where you say to your partner, honey, I want us to live the rest of our lives together because I love you so much and I don't want you to do anything to put me at risk. We can't go to the condom. You asking your husband to use a condom in Guyana is like saying you got a man with him. So we can't go there. But you got to go to the place where you say to him, I'm scared. You're not home every night and I'm scared. And I don't want anything to happen to us. And I want us to live our lives together. I love you so much and I can't live without you. Take it to that place. And you say, we probably should go do a test together. So if you attack, it's not going to work. You have to go to the place where you're hurting so much because you love him and you don't want to lose him.
Okay. I like that. Force doesn't always work.
It
Reason,
doesn't
reason
work
is
ever.
important. It doesn't work. It's reason is
So,
important. QTP says, she said, QTP says here, have refreshed my memory of where we started with the genesis of HIV/AIDS way back in '85 and subsequent birth of the AIDS Secretariat. I would like to know where we are now with the continuing education of AIDS/HIV, even though it is evident globally that the emphasis is not there like before.
I originally when we started doing HIV work in Guyana, all of the money, and I when I say all, I mean all. We do have a health budget that the government usually asks for every year in our yearly budget. But for HIV, there was most of the funding coming from outside. Now the government is taking ownership through the National AIDS Program. The National AIDS Program is the implementing body for the Ministry of Health. And so the minister has always preached one national program, one national M&E plan. Everything that we do, even though we are NGOs and being funded by the international funders, the work that we're doing has to be a part of that whole, that one Guyana national program. And so that puts it at a place where the government takes ownership. Of course, all the money from the Global Fund now goes to the government because that commitment was made government to government. And so the money goes to the government and then they disperse it. We have only just in the last year started getting money from that Global Fund money through the government.
Are
At
you
the time I
allowed?
said was the
Are you allowed, Desiree, to
chairperson.
appeal? Sorry, are you allowed to appeal to private funders if the flow or the quantity of money that's coming from the government is limited? Are you allowed to appeal to private funding?
Oh yes, you are. You
Okay.
are allowed. It's whether you will get it. It's not easy. But what we just got in Guyana, it's the Guyana Business Coalition for HIV and AIDS, and that's an organization that brought together businesses in the country, and so that they can support the work that is being done by the non-governmental organization, mainly for non-government, not so much for business or
Well,
the government.
okay.
So you are allowed. Matter of fact, GTP has been one of our funders at Arts and Network Support for our work is in production for the past 5 years. We approached them, we trained some of their workers as HIV educators so that they can do work in the workplace, and they have supported us every year for 5 years now. And
Okay.
so there are some businesses, mostly the bigger ones like Digicel, GT&T, but not the smaller businesses. But with the Business Coalition, they're linking businesses with
Well,
organizations.
that's a good thing. And so back to the. Were you finished, Desiree? Were you finished your point?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So Jay says, "Good night, everyone." Smiling. Desiree, I just want to say you have planted many seeds and one matured as me. I
Mhm.
always remember sitting in 3C at Saints when you came and talked to us about sexual education and HIV. I said to myself, when I grow up, I will stand for a cause. I did in the HIV field and my life as a whole.
Mhm.
So, do you still go into schools to educate children?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, but I don't do it personally. I do the project where I go, but because young people, the emphasis would be better if young people go and do work in school. So I have a batch of peer educators who would go into the school. If there are challenges in terms of abuse, children are facing abuse at home, then I would go to deal with that. The police have to become involved. You got to talk with parents. You got to go to the social worker, the Ministry of Human Services, and then I would get involved in that instance. But when they get the message, it's like a kind of an admiration when the young people go in there and start talking about HIV because they're saying, they're so young and they could do all this good work. I want to be like that. And then they can better relate to them because of the age. So yes, we do work. I don't do it myself. I allow my young educators to do that.
Okay. And Lily says, listening to Desiree and the Guyanese who have graced CWS in the past, I am impressed at how quietly progressive and innovative Guyanese are. I'm so proud to be Guyanese. Thank you, Desiree.
Welcome.
QTP says, I know that it became policy that workplace had to have an HIV/AIDS policy in place, the absence of which they could have faced a fine, etc. Where are we with this to date? Is it still being followed? Is it still being followed through? I did hear you talking about its introduction in schools, which is good. A lot of work had been done in this regard about educating the masses, but I am of the feeling that the enthusiasm is no longer there. Enlighten me.
Okay, so let me deal with the workplace. We
Uh-huh.
have a Guyana National HIV/AIDS Workplace Policy. This was created by the Ministry of Labor with support from the International Labor Organization, the ILO. And so one of the things that workplaces had to have was a policy, a workplace policy, an HIV policy that was created both by management, employer, and employee. Because one of the things we had to do was to help the employer to understand their benefits. If they have a very good worker, even though that worker might become HIV positive, you don't want to lose all that talent because of HIV, as long as the person is willing or still able to work. And so one of the major things that we did, we are doing work in the workplaces, and I just told you about the Ghana Business Coalition on HIV and AIDS. One of the major things that was done in the workplace was the training of the occupational safety and health officers as HIV officers. That was the brainchild. That was done by the Ministry of Labor. So that when the occupational safety and health officers went into the business places to ensure that they had safety procedures in place, at the same time to check to see if the workplaces had HIV policy and programs. And when I said that, I don't mean something sitting on a shelf. I mean something that's working. If they didn't have it, then these occupational safety and HIV/AIDS officers could then help them start putting the program policies together. I myself did that. I was a trainer of trainers, and I trained all the senior occupational safety and health officers in the Ministry of Labor as those HIV and AIDS officers. That was a big thing for me. So if you didn't have, we're not going to look like this, security risk. But if you didn't have a program, they were going to help you to form one, and then they go to follow one. And if you still continue not to have it, then you can be placed before. And so yes, it's happening.
Van Skidimites Parkitty says, if this hasn't yet occurred, Desi Des is an exemplary citizen and needs to be nationally recognized in Guyana for her superior and genuine contributions to Guyanese. I agree with that. I second that.
Thank you.
Jay says, thank you for realizing and embracing your gifts to influence and bring about change in Guyana and everyone you come into contact with. Thank you. May God continue to bless your journey.
Thank you.
Kali says, Desiree, I agree with Selwyn. You are truly phenomenal and doing transformative work. Thank you. Do you have a website for accepting donations?
Ooh, I love that. We're working on our website for our 20th anniversary. That's one of the things that me and my youth got in trouble with. I told them I'm not going to be building a website when I have all you young people that I send to do computer training,
I agree.
Photoshop, and all
I
that. So
agree.
they're working on it to have it launched in December.
When it launches, please let me know and I will post it. I'll broadcast it on one of the
Yes.
shows.
Sure. But
Vlansky,
we have a Facebook page, Artists in Direct Support. People can do donations there.
What is it
and then
called?
Work out with it.
what's it called?
It's Artists in Direct Support. It's a page.
Artist in Direct Support. The
Yes.
AIDS. Okay. And that's Facebook.
Yes.
All right. And Vlansky might spark. Kitty says, happy belated birthday.
Thank you. I know who that is.
Okay, a happy belated birthday again too. QTP says I asked about the workplace health and safety policy because I was involved in its birth, and that regulation and that regulation would hate to know that it is not being continued by the safety and health officers, of which I was one myself, was employed by Guy Suka.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you see, people have tuned in here to listen to you, Desiree. You have
Yes.
quite a magnet. And
Yeah.
Kali says artists in direct support, yeah, artists in direct support Facebook page. Um, uh, time is drawing to a close, but I want to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll get into some more discussions. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
La Sophie la grande coiffeuse. Arrête mon gars. Just take a look at you. Then I'm not so blue. When you're close to me, I can feel your heartbeat. I can hear you breathing in my ear. Wouldn't you agree, baby? You and me got a groovy kind of love. Anytime you want to, you can turn me on to anything you want to, anytime at all. When I kiss your lips, ooh, I start to shiver. Can't control the quivering inside. Wouldn't you agree, baby? You and me got a groovy kind of love. Running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die. 'Cause I don't know something beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. Yes, it will. So now I go to my brother, and I say, but somehow he winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Whoa, there were times I thought I wouldn't last for long. Now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming.
We are back. I'm Selwyn Collins on CWS. My guest, Desiree Edghill. Desiree,
Hi.
thanks for holding up. We're getting to the close.
Yeah.
In the chat room, Callie says art. Well, yeah, she wrote. This person wrote, artist in direct support Facebook page. Vlanskidamite Spark Kitty Desi Des. I'm happily reminded of your work with dear Andre. AIDS, artists in direct support. May he and the other souls we have lost continue to rest peacefully. So,
Yes. Yes.
you know, I am I'm almost speechless, Desiree.
Oh,
This show, this segment, this show has been so full of information, and you're such an ambassador. You're such a gem,
thank
with so much selflessness and so much compassion. You're so wise. Someone mentioned early on that you should be celebrated. Let me not misquote. I'm trying to paraphrase here. The person said you should be nationally recognized for your superior and genuine contribution to Guyanese, and I support that. You know, you really should be honored. Um,
Yeah.
and I
It's I I'm sorry. I'm more than humbled by all these beautiful things people are saying about me. But for me, my reward, and I say reward because it's not an award, the reward that
Mhm.
when I make a difference in people's lives, when I counsel with a couple who's HIV positive and help them to continue living together and understand that you're HIV positive now and how you got it and who gave it to you, it's not important. The important thing is for us to continue living together because we loved each other before we found out about HIV. And for me, the reward is when people say, "Oh, Desiree, thank you. If I didn't talk with you, I didn't know what would have happened to us." And you've done so much for us. And that for me is my reward. And even though national awards are good, I think hearing it from the people who you actually made a difference in their lives, that's what is good for me, as far as I'm concerned. Um, to be recognized by CARICOM as a champion of change, that is huge because it's not only about your own country, the people out of your own country recognize you're someone who's made tremendous contributions. And I will continue as long as I have life in my body. This is my love. Um, my friends would say, if you had a husband, by now he would have gone and left you. And I said, no. If I'm helping people to stay together, my husband will never leave me. Yeah, right there is by my side helping me to help people's life, help make people's life better.
Yeah.
And 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 so I wrote a story last year for my related production of a real story of a couple who found out about 5 days, 5 days after someone told the husband that the wife had HIV.
Someone what?
5 days after they got married, someone met the husband and told him, "You know that woman you just married to? She's HIV positive."
Oh,
And it happens. You know these people are getting married. Why didn't you say something if you knew before?
before,
Why?
yes.
You know what I mean? And it went to a terrible place, where the photographer at the wedding called me. She said, "Desiree, I need you to help talk to these people. I don't want this guy to kill this woman because he said he accused her." And she said, "Why are you accusing me? If you don't know for sure, it's just hearsay." He said, "Let's go do the test together." And they did the test together. He he shared his results with her. She didn't share hers with him. And so they had this altercation. And she asked me if I can speak with them, and I did. The best part of my work these two persons was when that man said to me that this is, of course, after constant after abusing, because I'm sitting there and they're cussing each other, but I'm letting them. You have to let them let out that steam. And when they're done, I said, "So can I talk now?" Be reasonable. And he said, "I know that this woman is HIV positive because he wasn't positive. They're what we call discordant couples." Of course, I just wanted to say that, a woman can get it easier from a man than a man can get it from a woman because we're the receptacles. So we're receiving.
Right.
So the man comes in us, so and stays in there, it just comes right away. Days after you still in the vagina. So because we're receptacles, we're more likely to contract the HIV from a man, and the man is likely to come from us. And although we were having unprotected sex, he was not HIV positive. And he said, there has to be a reason why I didn't become HIV positive. And so he thought differently about his life. And he said, "I know that she's positive. So I know that what I have to take care of. He's going to need help, continue to live with her, but He knows what it is, and he knows that he has to take care. Then I can leave her and go out there and meet someone else who I don't know is positive, and then contract HIV myself because the person might be in the period. That for me was profound. And I asked them, can I write a story for my birthday play? And they said, sure. And I did. I called it Don't Test Me. Because really,
don't test me.
Don't test me. This HIV is not only about testing for the virus, it's about testing the kind of relationships we have. And the kind of relationships we have will depend on whether we will contract HIV or not.
You know, Desiree, on that note, you know, I am sad to say that our show is coming to a close. I want to read these last statements here. QTP says, Desiree, you have brought back so much memory to the hard work that I have put in the HIV/AIDS era, and to hear how involved you are, I'm somewhat proud to see that it is being continued with your involvement and commitment. I worked with PAHO, WHO, and most of the funding agency along with Gwen King and her staff.
Oh yes, Gwen was a workplace. I remember her.
I dare say, continue the hard work. I'm indeed impressed.
I will. Thanks.
And Kali says, thank you, Desiree. You have touched us in a profound way. I appreciate and honor your divine spirit for the gift you are.
Thank you.
And Desiree, in my closing remarks, I want to say, let me start by saying thank you. I can't thank you enough, but thank you for agreeing to do this. Thank you for sharing so much of your experiences, so much of your wisdom. And we have barely scratched the surface of who is Desiree Edghill. So I am putting it out there to you to come back at some point and share with us some more of who you are. You're certainly very wise. You're very charismatic.
All right. I'll be back in December, so maybe we can do it then.
Yes, we can do it. We certainly can do it in December. And my closing remarks, I want to thank the audience for your patience again and for lending me your ears again tonight. We had a very interesting and very informative conversation. Yes. And so with that, I say to you, thank you. And good night.
It was a real pleasure, Selwyn. It's a real pleasure talking with you, hearing the comments from the other folks, our third party. It was really, really wonderful. It really made me feel special this evening.
You are special, Desiree. You are.
Thank you.
And so, good night.
Good night, Selwyn.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come.